life and he changed everything. I mean, he gave me fans, he gave me followers. There's the more VTVers he gets, the more likes he gets, the more powerful he becomes.
How many likes in the last video did we get?
2.
The one before that.
2.
Seriously?
If I could just get more views,
Welcome to Viral University.
then I could be popular.
I'm Mr. Viral.
Mr. Viral?
Wait, no, who's that?
Mr. Viral.
Probably just a computer program.
Let's get to work, shall we?
We're famous, dude.
I left the video.
This is the best thing that ever happened to us.
What the hell happened to you, O'Connell?
Yeah, it looks like I am.
Just remember us little people.
Will you trust me, Becky? Sure.
Sure.
Booyah!
Cheesy, but okay.
The video store is back open for business. It's Tales from the Video Store. I am joined today by a very good friend who I've known for quite a few years now, but this is the first time actually seeing each other face to face. And 2, his colleague, co-worker. I've got Todd Pringle here. He is the producer and writer of the movie Going Viral, and Vincent Vittorio, who is the director and also producer of Going Viral from 2024. This movie came out in December of 2024. If you go back into the Tales from the Video Store, the $2 late fee archives, you'll hear our interview with Corey Feldman, where he was talking about it. A short interview, but short and sweet, as I like to say. Yes. Literally covered all the bases. But gentlemen, Todd, it's so great to have you on the show. Vincent,
man.
Pleasure to meet you and have you on the show as well.
Likewise. Good to be here, Zach. Thanks for having us.
Yeah, thank you.
Yeah, it's a really big deal for me because, Todd, our history goes back quite a few years and pre-pandemic or right around the pandemic. I don't know who reached out to who, but one of us connected on Instagram.
Yeah.
And then there was this little thing that I don't even know if it still exists now called like Clubhouse. And
Right. I forgot about that. Yeah.
Wow. Yeah. What happened to Clubhouse?
I'm sure it's out there somewhere. I'm sure someone's still paying the,
But we did a call on it.
Yeah, so yeah, for all you listeners out there, a little backstage stuff. Dustin and I wanted to connect with the nostalgic community and kind of grow this love of 80s pop culture and see if we could, kind of get like minds together and see what we could come up with. Mm-hmm. And Clubhouse was a like audio only,
Yeah.
basically like phone chat. And we talked with you. I think we had John Toma, who's that 80s dude on Instagram, who's also another great friend of ours. And
was he on the same call as us?
I think he was.
If so, that is crazy because I know John too. So
yeah, John has become a good friend over the years. And
yeah, he's a cool guy.
Yeah, and Todd, you were like, I got this movie I'm working on. It's got a little nostalgia to it, and I'm hoping it gets finalized in May. Blah blah blah, and it did. It got released last December on Amazon. I believe I watched it on Amazon.
Long time coming.
Right. And now it's available for free on Tubi, which I think is now the friend of all like cult films.
Everything rad.
Everything rad. Like I was saying this the other day. To a friend of mine. I said, the Academy Awards had just happened. And I said, that's great. There's a lot of great movies that came out last year and I didn't see any of them. I said, a lot of those movies you'll watch once and you're done.
Right.
But the movies that are close to your heart are the ones that you watch over and over again,
Yeah.
this month on $2 late fee, we're celebrating No Retreat, No Surrender. And that's a movie
Okay.
that, while it's cheesy in many ways, it's got a lot of heart.
Yeah.
Yeah, yeah. And I think
Jean-Claude.
Jean-Claude Van Damme's one of his first movies. Kurt McKinney, who's the star of that film, some might say it's the ripoff of Karate Kid. Some might say it is a nice companion piece to the Karate Kid. What movie has the ghost of Bruce Lee teaching you karate?
Right. Yeah. God, I haven't seen that movie in so long.
Gentlemen, it's time to revisit that.
Yeah, I need,
Yeah.
looking at stuff on Tubi has been crazy too, just because I see so many movies that I would watch all the time as a kid. And I mean, just One of the Guys is on there. I mean, just all these things, even like the like Rhonda Up All Night kind of movies
Oh yeah.
are
All
on there.
night.
Spring Break or something like that.
Fraternity Vacation or like Private
Fraternity
Report. What else? Secret Admirer.
Yeah, another. Well, and so all over on my other show, Podcasting After Dark, which we break down movies we were not allowed to see as kids. Basically, we cover the movie My Tutor from 1980.
Okay,
Oh, I remember that.
Which is definitely like a teenage sex comedy. But I think Secret Admirer is a teenage sex comedy. Just One of the Guys is not. Just One of the Guys has its own genre.
It is.
That has been duplicated. But let's talk about going viral, though.
Okay, cool.
Vincent, could you, for those who haven't seen Going Viral, could you tell everybody what Going Viral is about?
Gosh, I'll even start more with the story of like the genesis of how this came to be.
Even better.
Todd and I were friends from when I lived on the East Coast in Atlanta and just north of Atlanta. And I was in LA. We stayed in contact, and I remember he sent me a script and said, "Hey, will you give this a read?" And I did, and immediately like lit up, like, oh man, brought me back to the '80s mindset of like being in that mode where storytelling was a lot different. And I just right away I was like, oh, this is golden. And we kind of worked together, just talking about it as friends. And then the pandemic happened, and I was kind of like many other people forced to relocate, mass exodus out of LA, and I moved my family back to the East Coast. And upon doing that, Todd and I kept talking more about this film and saying like, hey, like, like this is something I want to try to produce. And of course, with the unknown of what everyone was dealing with the pandemic,
right,
and kind of building this, we kind of worked together to kind of like get the story to a good place. And then I don't know how long was that, Todd, where like then all of a sudden it was like, let's make this movie.
Yeah, it was crazy. I actually sent you a different script first, like I think maybe the year before, and it was something that I'd been writing for a while. It was kind of my homage to Goonies.
Oh, nice. Okay.
And it was like a kid's story, and it involves like a scavenger hunt and all this kind of thing. And it was fun, but I knew it would take a lot of money to make. And then so our other partner, Kevin, and I were like working together one day, and we were talking about movies, and this idea kind of popped up, but we were trying to do different tiers, like really low budget, kind of in the middle, and then like thinking like, go for the stars or shoot for the stars. And this was actually the lowest of low at first, because the idea was kind of like, let's just do one location. We'll do kids in a house, like something like The Gate, or whatever.
Yeah, nice.
And
it's a geode.
And then so I went ahead and kind of wrote the initial draft. And then, and Vincent and I brought Vincent back into the loop. But I can't remember, Vincent. It took a while, because that was like 2019 and then 2020. Wow. And then of course COVID hit and slowed everything down. But we just kind of kept like starting to just create like the Instagram page, and just whatever we could do just to kind of keep the momentum going through all that, which is the hardest thing to do.
Yeah.
But I think, bringing Vincent on was great, because it really helped sort of mold the story a little bit more.
Yeah, and what you guys have done is you've created a film that, I mean, oftentimes people are like, oh, there's no more independent movies anymore. It's either like A24 is not independent, it's independent in, I guess, in its spirit, but it's a big company, right?
Right.
And this idea of independent films being made and getting a large audience to see them nowadays is, to my knowledge, is really far and few between.
Yeah.
So your movie is truly an indie movie. And I think going into that, when I watched it, I had that mindset of like, these guys are like on a shoestring budget. They're doing everything they can to produce something original. And I immediately get excited. That ups my love of the movie more when I know that there's a heart behind it, because it's not just a studio going, well, this is going to make a lot of money and it's got kids in it and it's good to go, you know? I don't think producers talk like that
I
anymore.
love your
I think,
voice. Yeah,
thank
you
you.
see?
Yeah, sure, yeah. Do you like cement
Yeah.
shoes? Huh? How about a movie with Sean Astin, and we'll
That's
call it
right.
Goonies 2? No, but here you are making this movie, and I know it had changed, it had evolved because,
Mm.
Todd, you and I talked about, like, through this process, we would check in every now and then
Yeah. Yeah.
with potential people working on the film and then not working on the film, and then obviously getting Corey Feldman, which was a huge deal. And I think he's
Right.
really good in it. And I want to talk about some of the cast members as well,
Sure.
because there's particular people where I'm like, whoa, this guy is a throwback big time to the 80s. But this movie is like a total little engine that could. And so I think when you go into it knowing that the blood, sweat, and tears were put into this film paid off, it makes you appreciate it even more. And that being said, the movie itself is a lot of fun. And there's
Thanks.
things that I want to say about it specifically. But Todd, you said the script evolved over the years before you had given it to Vincent, and or you gave him a different one originally. But you made this movie. It got done.
Yeah,
And
yeah.
the movie, I'm interested to see how you describe the movie. So Todd, how would you describe the movie?
I mean, it's kind of that, that age-old story, about a nerdy, kind of awkward teenager that wants to be popular, and it is kind of an homage to the 80s. So every time we were writing something, it felt like a scene from a movie we'd seen. And I don't think that's a bad thing, because I think the story itself is kind of original, right?
Right.
But I heard actually on another radio show that had Corey on, the guy said, I've never seen this movie before, but I felt this movie before.
Mm,
And I love that,
yeah.
because that's what we wanted. If somebody says, oh, this reminds me of something, and they take it as a negative, I take that as a positive. Because I'm like, if you're comparing this and saying like, oh, this is just like Back to the Future or whatever, so I'm like, okay, wow, that is the biggest compliment ever to me. But yeah, I mean, it's a story about a kid that wants to become popular. We were actually kind of making fun of our kids at YouTube, because our kids
Yeah.
were a lot smaller there, or back then when we were writing, and they were just obsessed with other YouTubers. And to us, that was just so foreign. Like, why are they watching these kids play video games or whatever?
Oh, my son is that way. He's like, oh, Preston. It was Preston Plays,
Or whatever it
yeah,
is, right?
yeah, right.
And so that was kind of it. And then so we were writing it sort of modern time, but every time we wrote more and more, it felt like an 80s movie. And
Mhm.
we're like, wouldn't it be weird if we put this in an 80s, like, background? Like if it's almost like an alternate timeline, like if there was this technology in the 80s, it's just kind of weird and bizarre and fun.
Yeah.
It's just different. And that's what we liked about it. So yeah, so originally it kind of was more modern day, but I think that brings kind of a weird twist to it.
Yes. I think for me, I love that. So your movie, if I was to like say to somebody, if someone said, give me three movies that it's like, I would say Can't Buy Me Love meets Tron meets Back to the Future,
Sure.
and
Great.
Ooh, that's a great comparison.
yeah. So I think, oh, thank you. So, and by the way, quote unquote, ripping off things or stealing things, go back to, we did an interview with Phil Joannou for the movie 3 O'Clock High. We celebrated the movie 3 O'Clock High, which
Love
we
that
love.
movie.
It's one of, I
Great
mean, the
movie.
intro to our
Love that
show
movie.
is the theme song to that movie, because Jim Walker wrote that song and he does the theme for our Tales from the Video Store song as well. But 3 O'Clock High, Phil Joannou literally said, he's like, oh yeah, I ripped off the punch from when Marty punches Biff in Back to the
Oh
Future.
yeah.
And that, came out, 2 years prior, or
Yeah,
it's After
yeah.
Hours in a school. It's like you're paying homage.
Oh yeah. Well,
Mhm.
we have a lot of those tropes for sure.
Big time,
And
big time.
and obviously their purpose, they're there on
Yeah.
purpose. So
What I love about it is it's not an 80s movie. It's this multiverse kind of movie. And I don't think that's ever been done before. And I really appreciate that. Someone said I was describing this movie, your movie going viral to somebody. And I said, yeah, like they have these cool, like almost like smartphone devices, but it's like mixed in with a Game Boy. So you can watch
right.
like a video screen on your Game Boy.
This.
And they're like, wait, so, oh yeah, whoa, you even have it. That's amazing. Are you wearing a Filmation t-shirt too, by the way?
Oh yes. I wore that just for you, Zach.
Oh my gosh.
I
Wow.
figured you'd get it.
I
You'd get
love Filmation is so near and dear to my heart. I
it.
was actually in a band with guys who were animators for Filmation
Oh wow,
cartoons. Yeah,
really?
when I first moved down to LA, side note, I was in a dad band and a lot of the guys were animators. Simon Wells was one of the main guys, and he's actually H.G. Wells' grandson. I don't mean to name
Wow.
drop, I'm just name dropping. Anyways, H.G.
That's
Wells'
yeah,
grandson.
That's awesome.
rightfully so.
He was one of the directors on Back to the Future 3, and he did the Prince of Egypt movie
Oh
and
yeah, yeah, yeah.
the Time Machine movie that came out, the DreamWorks films, and a movie called Mars Needs Moms, which never got the love that I feel it truly deserved. It was a Disney movie, and anyways, the guys in the band were also animators, and we're sitting around one day. I'm like, so, what have you guys worked on? And one of the guys goes, well, I used to work for Filmation, and it was like a record scratching. I'm like,
You're like,
wait, what?
what?
What did you work on? He's like, I used to work on He-Man and
He-Man.
She-Ra, and I'd be the inker or
That's
whatever, and
awesome.
Brave Star, and I'm like, oh my God, you're blowing my mind. So, anyways,
That's so cool.
that is so rad, and I appreciate that you're wearing that shirt. But this movie going viral is it's so much fun because you're like, this could be anywhere. And I feel like my son just got into Stranger Things. We stopped with season 4 because it's terrifying him right now. He's 10. And I'm like, yeah, it's a good place to stop. We'll wait until you're like 13 or 14. So there's like a vibe of Stranger Things to this because Stranger Things clearly is an homage literally to the 80s, but you guys are pulling elements of the 80s, which I love.
I think we went into that with a lot of the scenes where, as we're shooting things, it was kind of like us referencing stuff that I feel like because we were dealing with a cast that didn't grow up in our era, it was a little difficult. It was like
And a
almost like
crew.
showing them an old movie. Like, like the best one was at the very end of the film, with the Ferris Bueller kind of nod, and at the
Yeah.
very end where we had him like, go, go, the movie's over. And I'm trying to explain it to him, and I literally had to pull it up on my phone to have him watch the end credits to be like, "Hey, I want you to channel this, like go
Wow.
this direction," which was kind of funny because it's just like, wait, like, we really were in a special time that I think a lot of people, even if they watch them now, I think there's a little element of that's lost because it's not like you're understanding that kind of body of work as a whole in the time that we were living in.
Right, right. And that era is so different now. We're living in an age of YouTube clips and we just had Oliver Harper on, who's a fantastic documentary filmmaker. He made a documentary called In Search of the Last Action Heroes, and it's a
Hmm.
great compilation of like interviews that he's done with actors from action movies in the 80s and 90s. He also did one on Street Fighter and, of course, No Retreat, No Surrender. But we live in an age of like clips of things, right? Where kids see the clips of things and that's it, or it's done in a meme or it's done in a GIF. And Todd, yeah, you guys are working with a cast and crew that's younger than you.
If their parents raised them right, then they've seen all those movies.
Right, right. I mean, I think our generation now, when we were kids growing up and Back to the Future was, I just think of that on the top of my head because it's so clearly, I know they go back to the 50s, but it has a 50s aesthetic to it. And the filmmakers back then were children of the 50s and 60s. So
That's
they
right.
had a natural kind of inclination to put that love into the 80s movies. Now
That's
we're
right.
in 2024, we're doing 80s and unfortunately 90s. And
90s. Yeah.
not always, unfortunately. There are some good
Yeah, there's
moments
some
from the
good
90s.
90s. Yeah,
Yeah.
Even in the intro to our show, we're sometimes like, yeah, sometimes we cover 90s movies.
yeah.
But your cast specifically, they're really good kids. Shay Pritchard, he plays the
Richard, yeah.
lead. Yeah, he plays Beckett. And he is the quintessential Patrick Dempsey, can't buy me love, nerdy guy who gets his makeover and becomes this stud who looks more like Marty
Yeah.
McFly, but I'm sure that was intentional too.
Very much.
right? He does a great job.
Marty
Yeah.
or George?
He's got some George qualities to him.
At the beginning, yeah.
Oh yeah,
Yeah.
no doubt. It's like a combination. But I will say, his buddy though, Matt, is it Matt Alea? Is that how you say his last name?
Yeah, Leah.
Alea. Matt Alea. I was like, wow, did they take Dan Shore from Tron and who played Ram? And he looks just like
I
him.
never thought about that.
Yeah, I never made that
Great
connection either.
reference.
That's a good one. Yeah.
If you go back to there's a movie, a great low key horror film he did in the 80s called Strange Behavior. It's also called Dead Kids. And it is an Australian film with an American cast. It's also, I think, I forget the director's name, but he did the movie Strange Invaders as well. It's part of his Strange trilogy. Anyways, he looks just like, your co-star Matt.
Yeah, Jay.
He's so good. Jay is so good.
He is. And this might have been Jay's first feature. Like he's been in
Yeah,
a
it was.
bunch of things, but I think it was his first feature,
Okay.
if I'm not mistaken. In fact, Matt was, we were trying to wind down the casting for Beckett, and I think Matt threw his hat or his name in the hat for Beckett. And I think I went to you, Vincent. I was like, I think he'd be good for Jay.
It was exactly we literally got done with his thing, and then afterwards we were doing a Zoom call because we were in different spots, and right away we were like, yes, I think that's our Jay. Because it was just like the way he kind of gave the lines, it wasn't what we were looking for specifically for Beckett.
Exactly.
Because which is sometimes
So
always the
funny.
thing. It's like, well, we want to reassign this, but it worked out great. And the dynamic of them together, I think they just like do a really good job of kind of complementing, each one another. And they worked really well together too. It was
I think so
we're
too.
very lucky.
Way that Jay was written was more like a young Corey Feldman.
Okay.
So he was more smart aleck and like things you would have, you would remember from kind of that annoying, funny, smart aleck friend from the 80s.
Right.
Mm-hmm.
And he's got some of that, but he's also very sweet and loyal. And that's just Matt. And that's what Matt put into it. And we loved it.
I'm so glad he did because I actually appreciate that even more. There is a direct nod to Can't Buy Me Love. It's different than what happens to Patrick Dempsey's friend in that movie.
Totally.
But it is still cringy enough to be like, oh my God, I can't believe that happened. And newsflash, folks, when you see that scene, that stuff did happen in the 80s.
Yeah. But you're talking about the movie theater, right?
I'm talking about the movie theater scene. I don't want to give it away, but
I won't either. Kevin actually wrote that scene in. And we were thinking about what to do, but yeah, it's exactly. I mean, that is, yes, a big nod to Can't Buy Me Love.
which I love that movie too. But Matt/Jay he does have so much heart and it's so believable and he seems like such a genuine, like good person. And I think that's, what I did as a kid was I idealized certain actors and characters in movies. And I'm like, oh, they got to be just like that, right? In real life, because that's what you ultimately want. And that's what you achieve, I think, in going viral. Obviously Corey is in the movie. He has a small role in the film. It's a fun role though that he has. When you have a big name attached to a movie, clearly it's going to get more eyeballs on it. So kudos to you guys for, getting him in the film.
Thanks.
And I appreciate what he said. He's like, it's a family film. I really don't do these all that often.
No, he was great. He was great. When we reached out to his agent, we talked to a couple other celebrities as well, or stars that have been in other 80s movies. One we talked to for a little while, and then he kind of got to a point, I think he just didn't think it was going to happen, or we didn't have the money or something.
Right.
But the agent for Corey he was very open, but he's like, I don't think he's going to do it for less than, a certain amount of money.
Yeah.
Of course, we were on a very tight budget, and he's like, but just send me the script. We're like, okay. Send the script. About 2 weeks later, he calls back. He goes, yeah, we just talked to his manager. He's like, he wants to do it. He really liked the script. We're like, I mean, just like,
Yeah.
So that to me was a game changer. And it wasn't, the cool thing about it is, I mean, of course, Corey's great, but it wasn't a cameo to me.
No.
Right?
Yeah.
It wasn't like we just stuck him into like one scene just so you could see him for a second. I mean, he plays a pretty vital role in it.
He does.
It just doesn't happen until way later in the movie.
And
Right.
even to the point that we kind of like really strategically place things to where like his identity is brought in the very first scene of the movie. And you don't, it's just subtly placed there, but like little between there, you see things. And it's like the icon of what he represents as this old
Right.
gamer that essentially lost the fame, which is kind of wrapped up in the whole concept of what fame even means in that matter. So,
Right.
It's really well done. Because I think the obvious nod when you get an iconic performer like Corey in a movie is like, oh, you gotta either have him be like a former child star. But I like that you made him a former gaming star. It's a little bit of a twist, and that's I'm spoiling something that isn't that big of a deal to spoil anyways, because I think there's definitely other things in it. But there's not Max Headroom in this movie that I was just like, oh my God, that is so Max Headroom. And I love that.
I don't know.
yeah, what do you mean? What?
I don't
Who?
know what
No,
you're
I'm just
talking
kidding.
about.
I don't know what you're talking
I don't
about.
know.
Um,
Yeah.
what I love about your movie is again, you're doing something original, and it's that even like down to the music, whether or not that was a choice. And I'll ask you guys that: was it a choice to have original music in the film, or had you wanted to get licensed songs, and were unable to?
Um, I mean, my answer would be both.
Okay,
We wanted original music and we wanted, like radio music, you
yeah,
know. It's just obviously you got to have the right budget to have that kind of music in the movie. But I thought we were able to kind of dial into, you know, the right music for that era.
yeah.
Uh, I was very, very happy with how the music turned out. We have can't remember, Vincent, how many original songs we have in it. Maybe like three or four.
Yeah, it
But,
sounds right.
uh, but yeah, we worked with another company that had some pre-written music, and man, it was just, I mean, to me, it was spot on. It just, yeah,
Which is nice when that happens because there's just so much great music out there that we obviously know the songs that we can identify with, and we
Right.
we tried to play with a few of those at times, specifically, in the end scene of the movie and whatnot. But at the same time, like there's just such great new music that has that kind of '80s vibe or feel in music libraries or things that people had created
Yeah.
that we thankfully were able to, find it fit right, and then we could license it without, trying to raise capital just to have a 30-second song.
No kidding. I mean, you can get a Mr. song from back in the day, and next thing you know, it's half your budget. So or you can get a band like the bands in your film. There are two specific scenes that stand out to me. One is in the beginning of the movie. It's like a party scene,
Yeah.
and the song that's played in that is so spot on. And for a moment, I was like, "Is this a band that I've heard before from the '80s?" No, no, no. This is an original band, which I appreciated. Again, like the heart of it. And then obviously there's a skateboard scene that's an homage to whether you want to say Thrashin' or Gleaming the Cube, a little bit of both. Um, and that song is really well played and placed as well. I know I'm gushing a little bit to you guys, but I want everyone to go out and watch your film because I think you're going to appreciate the again, and I've used this quite a few times in this interview, the heart of your movie because it's got a lot of heart.
thank
Oh, well,
you.
thank you. That means a lot.
But I want to pivot to another point and ask you guys, on our show, we talk a lot about tales from the video store. And Todd, was there a video store that you went to back in the day? A local one, a mom and pop shop?
Yes, there was two of them.
Yeah,
Um, my gosh, it's so funny. I cannot remember. I mean, just because when Blockbuster came on the scene, it's so easy to say Blockbuster because we spent so much time in Blockbuster.
right.
Um,
Did you had a couple places that you went
there
to,
was a
right?
couple of places, and then yeah, you go through phases of just, what you were watching at that time, where you'd rent. I mean, I can remember, and this just totally defines the 80s, right? Like being like fifth or sixth grade and going there and just buying like or renting horror movies.
Well, you referenced The Gate earlier, so
Friday
I'm
the
curious.
13th. Yeah, The Gate, House, like all these, and just like five of them, and taking to your buddy's house and just like watching things in a row, then going out and playing, then come back and watch another one.
Yeah,
But yeah, I mean, I miss that. and it's kind of like you miss it for your kids, and I know it's totally different now, but yeah, I mean, I definitely enjoyed just like the smell of going into a video store.
Totally.
It's got that smell that you can't explain unless you've been there, you
Right.
know?
Right. And were you restricted as a kid as to what you could rent, or was it pretty much hands off?
Um, yes and no. I think if my parents walked in on something, they would be like, like, what are you watching? Like, what the heck are you watching? But at the same time, they weren't always like, if I brought something home, they weren't grabbing it from me. So
Right.
they were, yeah, they were pretty lenient in that, respect. But I mean, I felt like I was watching things very early on. I had an older brother, so
Same. Yeah.
like I mean, I just think about like even stand up, watching like Eddie Murphy or something at a
Right.
very young age. So I mean, I was 10 and 85, so you know.
You're bringing a memory of that I've probably bottled up for some time of Eddie Murphy talking about Mr. T and doing certain things from Eddie Murphy
Yes.
Delirious. Anyways, Vincent, how
I
about
won't do
you?
any impressions.
Yeah, I will not do that impression. Just don't make me clench, I think was something
Yeah,
he
that's
said in
right.
that bit. Vincent, was there, how about you growing up back in the day?
Yeah,
Local
I
stores?
always I mean I lived in South Florida in Miami, and I recall like the blockbuster music, and trying to think Turtles, and I don't know, just something about that experience of knowing it's the end of the week and you
Yeah,
get all of these movies, and literally just that kind of feeling of like going in there and trying to kind of rush in because you don't know if it's like new releases, if they're going to be
right.
there. And for all you young kids, the idea was it would have the image of what it was, and then there'd be stuff behind it, but that doesn't mean it was right. People would put like other movies to strategically like hide it. So like if you
To
were
hide
waiting
it.
on that new release and you go behind it and you're like,
Right.
oh wait, this is a totally different movie. I don't want to watch Bloodsport. Like this is not the new release. So all to say it was kind of a fun adventure. And then like it just as when you go to the movie theater, you then pick the movies, you've got your four releases, and then you got the licorice and the popcorn and everything, and then you're going home and enjoying it. It was really just a great experience that I feel bad for the generation today that they couldn't experience in that way. But there's still a little bit of a love for that with you see like vinyl records, for instance, right?
Yeah,
Like you can
totally.
obviously open up Spotify, hear whatever you want, but my daughters, my youngest are, 10 and 12, and they love to hear a record, which is kind of a beautiful thing,
Yeah.
just as much as the 17-year-old girl. So it's like it's
Mhm.
cool that they all like kind of like get back into that, but um, yeah, I think that video stores, definitely Blockbuster was the one we would always go to. There was this smaller one called Video King, that I remember in Miami Beach. It was kind of like not a knockoff of Blockbuster, but not as big.
Yeah.
But it was just, yeah, it was a really, really magical time, great experience for sure.
Yeah, it's funny. My son now, he is a huge movie lover, huge vinyl lover as well. That the first thing I ever sat him down with when he was like maybe 18 months was listening to Bruce Springsteen and the E Street Band 10th Avenue Freeze Out on vinyl, just watching the record and describing it to him and everything. He still he doesn't remember it, but he like remembers the feeling, because we have a huge vinyl collection, cassette tapes too. But there's something about that Friday night getting
Mm,
excited, having a movie night. Now movie nights are, I think, more for home. It's like,
yeah,
what are we going to do on a movie night? We're going to make the popcorn. We're going to get the treats and blah, blah, blah. Because the TVs are so big, you can kind of have that experience. It's not the same. It's just not the
yeah.
same. And nothing ever is. And I think, in going viral, there's something, it's cool because you're like, what if it was this? What if the 80s came into the now and we had a little bit of the old school with the now, which gives you those nostalgic feels. You're like, it is possible. We could do this right now. But then maybe kids would get kidnapped and sent into another multiverse of like Tron. But that's a
Right.
whole other story. So go watch Going Viral on Tubi. Uh,
That's right.
had you ever planned to release Going Viral like on a physical level as far as Blu-rays are concerned, or VHS perhaps?
Yeah, 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 yeah. We're still looking into that
Oh, cool. Okay.
Yeah, I
for
mean, we
sure.
flirted with that originally, even with like the initial release, but it's a very difficult time, I feel like, with, self-releasing films and getting the right distributor.
Right.
So, but as Todd said, I mean, there's still this possibility of something in the future with that. So,
I hope so, because if you do make a limited run of VHS tapes, I will definitely buy one because we still
Yeah,
have
man.
I'm still, the VCR still works, so we can still
Yeah,
pop
me
them in.
too. Me too.
You're right, Vincent. Vinyl has stood the test of time, but VHS tapes, I think, are still having a hard time finding that, audience, a younger audience. Definitely, it's a older person's collecting thing, that they do.
Yeah,
But there's still an audience out there for it.
I agree. I agree.
So, as we start to like wind down, wrap up, I want to throw it out to you guys. A couple things. One, Todd, I have a feeling I know the movie you would rent. But Vincent, I'm curious for you too. Let's pretend we're going back in the 80s and the three of us are having like a sleepover party at somebody's house, and we each are bringing one movie to said house. Todd, what's a movie that you would bring? It could be any time in the 80s. What's one movie you would bring over to, you're coming over to my house? What movie would you bring to my house to show us?
That's a great question. I mean, just off the top of my head, I would say maybe like Better Off Dead.
Oh,
Yeah.
yeah, yeah. And what is your love of Better Off Dead? Why do you like that movie so much?
Oh, I don't know.
Why would you bring that to the
It's
party?
definitely one that I watched a lot. Um, I mean, just so many good scenes in that movie. I mean, it's just one of those things where it's just like when I watch it, it's kind of like being with an old friend.
Yeah,
You know?
that's a great pick.
And it's kind of weird and crazy too, you
Oh
know?
yeah,
So it's just like it's not just straight up, here's a guy that's down on his luck, and his girlfriend's left him and, you know, uh I mean just everything that's in it, but it's just got this kind of weirdness to it that just I don't know. It always kind of spoke to me in a way. And I just enjoyed it. And I had a couple of buddies that enjoyed it and we just always laughed together. But too many movies, man. I mean, that's just one off the top
yeah.
of my head.
No, that's a good one to pick because A, it has a great soundtrack, and
Yes.
B, it's got animation in it, it's got claymation in it,
Yeah.
it's got such a cavalcade of cartoonish type characters. I can't believe I just put all that together in one sentence.
Yeah.
That it really has a wider audience. It's not just a rom-com. It's got something for everybody. And I think
Yeah.
it's like a PG movie practically too. So there's
I think so
pretty
too. I
safe.
think so too. Just everything in it. I mean, it's got car racing and ski racing.
There you go. It's got your car chase scenes, and
Yeah.
it's pure snow, and it's got drug
That's right.
use, sort of.
Booger. That's
Yeah.
right.
Vincent, how about you? What's a movie you would choose if you're coming over to my house? We're having a sleepover. What are you gonna watch? What are you gonna
Man,
bring in?
my favorite was always Ferris Bueller's Day Off. I mean, just something
Yeah.
about just like how dynamic but then fun the ride is, because you've got so much about like the father-son relationship, kind of the sense of, like socioeconomic status, then like the whole like I don't know, just something about that movie that I feel like just I continue to even today like go back to watch, and it's just like, yeah, this is really a perfect film. I mean,
Yeah,
that and The Breakfast Club are my two favorite of his, but it's just something about like that feeling of just I don't know, great film.
it really is. And again, great soundtrack. Got a
Mm,
little bit for everybody. And it's got a Charlie Sheen appearance too, which when Charlie
Yeah.
Sheen was at his peak.
it does. Good
So
call.
I will keep that theme going of lighthearted comedies. I was going to say The Wraith, but that's just a personal.
Oh man,
Ooh,
The Raid. That's
that's
a
a
good
really
one.
good movie. Ooh,
I
I'd have to
mean,
revisit that.
you should, you
Man, I used to
should.
watch that all the time too. That seems like one
Yeah.
that's come on so randomly.
Yeah,
And oh man.
it did. And again, it's one of my favorite, as the kids say, low key, one of the best soundtracks from the 80s, which I have on
Yeah.
vinyl and cassette.
I don't
Um,
I don't know why I remember like weird things about that movie, but like the water hole or whatever where they
in
like
Arizona.
like in my head as a kid, I was like, oh, that's such a cool place,
Me
you know?
too. I wanted to go there. And then I heard like I saw like there's a great Blu-ray release from Vestron, I believe. Vestron Video is back.
Okay.
They've released some small batch stuff, and there's a behind the scenes where they go back to the locations, and the guy's like, oh, this is where the watering hole used to be, and now it's kind of dried up. It's the winter time, and I'm like, oh, because that's the reality. Big Kate's Burgers is not around anymore, so
Oh
Oh,
the burger
gosh.
place with the girls on roller skates.
roller
But
skates.
to keep the comedy slash Ferris Bueller's not a romance, but it has romantic elements to it. I would say I'll throw, and you said it earlier, Todd, Just One of the Guys. I'll put that one on for
It's a
our
great
three
one.
that we'll watch together. And I'll simply say, besides the fact that it's got a great cast and it's super funny, but the soundtrack is phenomenal.
Mm.
And specifically the dance scene towards the end of the movie where Clayton Rohner is dancing with Joyce Heiser is just like this band who looks like Mr. Mister.
Right.
The song's called
Yeah.
Hard Way. The song Hard Way is, I've told this story before, but it was a song I was looking for forever. And I went
Mm-mm.
on message boards on IMDb and I typed in, I'm like, does anyone know where I can find Hard Way? And you can like see your email address on there. And I get this random email like weeks later, and it says inmate at Folsom Prison, blah, 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 blah. And the guy and whoever wrote in, here's Hard Way and their other song from the movie,
Oh
Enjoy.
wow.
And I'm like, was that from a person in prison? Sent me this. Sure, I'll
That's
take it.
interesting.
Hey.
That's
Glad they got
interesting.
internet there.
Right.
Good
Yeah,
one.
exactly. Well,
Yeah.
so as we wrap up, and I want to remind everyone to go watch Going Viral. It's on Tubi. Maybe they won't, maybe Todd and Vincent don't get a percentage of the profits from Amazon, but if you go on Amazon, rent it on Amazon and pay the $2.99 or whatever, it's worth it. Um, a soundtrack that you both really love from the 80s. Vincent, can you
Ooh.
think of a soundtrack that you really love from the 80s
Oh gosh, that's a hard one.
besides Ferris Bueller?
Yeah, I love The Breakfast Club. I mean, I think there's certain songs every time that come on that I'm just like, oh, I'm immediately brought back to that end scene, and it's just
Yeah.
like, I don't know. Yeah, I'd say that's probably the one that immediately goes to me. So
It's funny you say that because Kurt McKinney, star of No Retreat, No Surrender, earlier this month, Martial Art Madness, I asked him the same question. He said Breakfast Club. And there's a Wang Chung song on that soundtrack, which is
yeah,
great. And I don't think you can get it anywhere else other than that soundtrack.
really, oh, that's interesting. Okay,
Pretty sure.
huh.
Yeah. It rivals To Live and Die in LA, the soundtrack that they did as well. That would be my choice, I believe. But how about you, Todd? What's a soundtrack from the 80s that you really dig?
Man, that's a tough question.
Or I'll tee it up this way, and Vincent will come back to you. If not a soundtrack, is there a martial art movie from the 80s to tie it into martial art madness?
Oh, Last Dragon.
Oh, look at you. You didn't even have to miss a
Yeah.
beat,
Yeah.
which is celebrating its 40th anniversary.
You teed it up
That's a
earlier.
that's a
And if you
great
notice,
movie
at the beginning of the movie, we have a Last Dragon poster
right there.
You
in the
do.
room.
You
Yeah.
do. Where'd
Very
you get that
gorgeous.
poster, by the way?
I think I had it made.
Okay.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Why are
Yeah.
they hard to come by?
Well, I because that one you use is from like
Oh yeah,
the DVD print.
Maybe from
Yeah.
the yeah,
But
the
I
VHS
love
or
it.
something. Yeah.
Yeah, I love
Yeah, yeah.
that. And I was telling my son Bodie when we were watching the movie, I'm like, we literally just put our posters on the wall with tape back in the day, or push
Yeah.
pens. I had all these holes on
Yeah.
my wall because of the push pens.
You
Yeah.
remember the amount of like posters we got in magazines? The amount of magazines that would have the triple fold out and it was like perfect. Like that was like a very like normal thing. And like
Yeah.
now it's like I don't think I've ever seen anything like that. I mean, it was like they made the magazines with the intent that you would cut something out or if it was folded into three parts, it would be the art for it. So anyway.
Yeah,
Yeah.
you had to unfasten the staple. Well, if you were a professional, you would
Yeah.
unfasten the staples and pull it out so that you wouldn't get a rip in it. Otherwise, you just yank it out and then there's a big tear.
Yeah. No.
Yeah.
Like the movie adaptations, that's where I got my Masters of the Universe poster because I got the movie book and it came with a poster in the middle.
Oh,
That's
cool.
beautiful.
Yeah. So
Cool.
Last Dragon is a great choice. We covered that movie last year on Martial Art Madness, and I do love that film. I think I've grown to appreciate it even more as an adult because there's more adult themes in that I think that are harder to relate as a kid. But again,
Yeah.
it's celebrating its 40th anniversary this year, so that's pretty cool. How about you,
Yeah.
Vincent?
Yeah.
Any
I
martial
would
art movies?
go with, I mean, you mentioned Van Damme earlier, and I think I mentioned Bloodsport, but I think Bloodsport was a great great film. I mean,
Still
like, I
holds
don't know,
up.
just something. I got a Van Damme thing where it was just something about like his body of work where he was doing so much work back then, but it was like, my gosh, the amount of stuff he was in. I mean, it was good stuff.
I think that that movie, if you looked at statistics from back in the 80s, that movie probably got more kids to take karate than a lot of maybe it rivals Karate Kid as far as getting encouraging kids to want to take karate because they saw that and they're like, this guy is so cool. He's like an embodiment of a G.I. Joe character.
Yeah.
I'm sure Frank
Now,
Dukes, the real Frank Dukes would appreciate that. So
were you a fan of, or are you a fan of Cobra Kai?
I mean, I love Cobra Kai. I thought I still have to catch up to the end because
Okay.
I haven't finished it off yet. But
I won't
I
spoil it for you.
Yeah, unfortunately, a few things have already been spoiled. I'm like, duh, I kind of figured that. But, Sean Kanan, who plays bad boy Mike Barnes in Karate Kid Part 3, has
Right.
become a good friend of mine.
Oh,
And
cool.
it's so nice to see these guys get a resurgence in their careers
Yes.
or more of exposure. Yuji Yakamoto is like, he's runs a restaurant up in Seattle now. Like he's kind of retired from the business, but what they did for him in the show is great. And Thomas Ian Griffith is like can do no wrong in my book. I love Thomas Ian Griffith,
Yeah.
who plays Terry Silver, and he has silver hair in the new series. So, have you guys both watched Cobra Kai?
Oh yeah. We've watched it pretty much as a family. My kids,
Oh, nice. Okay.
yeah. I mean, there's a lot of cheese to love,
Yeah,
but we kind of call it like good cheesiness. So I don't know.
agreed.
It's fun. It's fun for sure.
And I gotta watch it. I feel kind of like there's so much content, and I feel like, but a funny story, not to name drop, but name drop in a weird
Please.
way. My kids were going to Village Christian in the Valley, and a lot of celebrities' kids go there if they're not going to Oaks or other areas.
Yeah.
And I remember this one day, I like look over at this guy, I was like, man, he looks like he just came out of like a Karate Kid set. And my son was like, "Yeah, he's in this show called Cobra Kai," and it was right when it released. And I was like, "Okay, wow, that really fit the part." And I was like, "It's kind of funny." So,
That's
um,
awesome.
but it's on my list. I think it's just so hard in the day to day to be able to absorb enough and really commit to it. I don't want to watch one thing and then not get down that rabbit hole. But it's on the list. So,
I know
Yeah.
my wife kind of tapped out on it, so it's hard for us to watch as a family now because maybe she doesn't want to watch it, but I really want to watch it, and my son's like, "I'll watch it with you." So, and by the way, I used to teach at Buckley, Vincent. I don't know if
okay.
familiar with that school. I taught kindergarten there for almost 10 years,
Oh,
so
that's cool. That's cool. Yeah, yeah.
that's my background in this area. And my co-host Paul London is training, has trained to wrestle. Oh gosh, on Cobra Kai, he plays the not he's like the heavy set guy who's on that show Blackbird, I think, on Apple TV. And
Okay.
The big guy on Cobra Kai?
yeah,
Guy that plays like Stingray or whatever?
Stingray. Yeah, he plays
Yeah.
Stingray. You know what I'm talking about? That
Yeah,
guy's.
yeah, yeah, yeah. He's been in a few things.
Anyways, he's training to wrestle, and my co-host for Territory Marks, Paul London, who is a professional wrestler, has trained him and wrestled with him
Oh, wow.
down in Texas. So, anyways, that's a whole other podcast. Vincent, any upcoming projects you want to talk about and promote?
Oh gosh, I'm just finishing up a documentary series on health and wellness.
Oh,
It's been
cool.
7 episodes, about a year and almost going on a year and a half of my life. But we're finishing things up. I guess this quarter. So excited about that, and
That's great.
see how things come together. But yeah, definitely check it out. My studio with documentaries is Life is My Movie Entertainment. So check it out and see some of the past work we have out there. So.
I'll put all those links into our show notes as well so people can just
Oh,
click on that.
and records. You're a record fan. So Record Safari was a documentary we did on a vinyl collector that kind of tours the country, hand selecting vinyl, all to get ready for the Coachella Music Festival, which has
Oh,
a record show. So check that out. In fact, I'll even send you, since you're a vinyl guy, we did a vinyl soundtrack with that movie.
ooh,
So I'll send you the soundtrack. It's got a mixed bag of different artists, new and old, from like Bikini Kill to like Fiona Silver to you name it. So I'll send you that. And it was a
Awesome.
fun thing to make a soundtrack. And in the mode of trying to be retro, we did a short run of clear vinyl for the
Ooh,
soundtrack, and I put film frames in the clear vinyl that were from the actual film
that's
that we had
cool.
to, because we shot digitally, we had to get like an optical printer to make it into film on 16 millimeter and then put it inside the vinyl. So I'll send you one of those. So, and you know,
Oh, thank you so much. I mean, well, that's why I had you guys on the show to get any swag you
free
wouldn't mind putting.
swag.
Yeah,
That's
no,
right.
that is rad.
Well, we love that poster right there.
Yeah, the
That's probably
poster
like
looks
right
good
there.
back there,
It's
Zach.
I
beautiful.
know. Yeah. So that going viral poster. Boop, boop, boop. Shout out to, was it Sean, your assistant Sean? Yeah.
Sean.
Hand delivered, really nice posters for my co-host Dustin and I. Dustin, obviously,
How was Dustin?
he's doing okay. For those that don't know, my co-host Dustin lost everything in the Eaton fire, he and his wife, and it was one of those things where their power went out. It's gone out before. They're like, oh, we better get a hotel for the night. So they got their dogs and they grabbed just a couple things because they thought they hadn't gotten a warning yet about the fire. And by the time they had gotten the warning, it was too late to go back. They couldn't go back and they lost everything. So fortunately, thanks to places like GoFundMe, they were able to start their recuperation process. They stayed with us for a little bit. Actually, the two of us are going out of town because we're gonna. Speaking of documentaries, Vincent, we're in a documentary called "Making Megaforce" that's coming out about the 1982 movie Megaforce,
Cool.
starring Barry Bostwick. We're going to the premiere of that this weekend, and that will be coming soon to streaming services later on in the year. But yeah, Dustin's
Nice.
doing okay. You know, like
Yeah.
you think about that. People say, what's the one thing you would take? And then you realize it doesn't, none of it matters. You know, if you've got your family and you've got your animals and whatnot, but it's hard. It's a hard process and my heart hurts for everyone going through this right now. We've
Sure.
unfortunately got a lot of people, friends who are affected by it, but
Yeah, one of our partners lost their home
oh yeah, you
from
had mentioned that offline.
Yeah,
Yeah.
Palisades.
but yeah,
Or
It's
Malibu, not
tough.
tell
Palisades.
Dustin that, he's in our thoughts and prayers for sure.
I will. I will. He's overwhelmed by the love that he gets from people. So, unfortunately, the nostalgic community has really stepped up, and
Cool.
there's a lot of love in this community. I love it
For
absolutely.
sure.
I will
Me
say,
too.
I would tell you, Vincent. When I die, I want my ashes put into a vinyl record. They do that. They put
Yes.
your favorite song on a record. And my wife's like, if you die before me, there's no way I'm gonna play that. I'm like, I know. It'd be cool.
That's awesome.
Love
That's
it. Love it.
awesome.
Todd, how about you? Anything upcoming that you want to promote other than going viral on Tubi?
Going viral on Tubi. Yeah, so we've got a documentary that is still in development, but we've got a teaser that's out on X now called The Bear Trap, and Vincent is also involved with that.
Cool.
And that's all about the retail investor. Basically kind of like what's happened from the GameStop squeeze back in 21 until now and all the retail investor community and what's been kind of going on behind the scenes. So it's very interesting. Yeah, if you're
I'm
on X,
fascinated by that.
look up the Bear Trap movie. And then other than that, just been writing, obviously working, but yeah, finished up another script not too long ago called GarageBand.
Oh, cool.
Yeah, we'll see if that ever gets made. If I have the blind ambition again to try to do something like that.
When it gets made, it's
When?
it's a great concept, and it's gonna happen. So
As long as it's not like that Nickelback video where they're in the garage and talking about, remember when we played Nintendo, which I love, and Dustin always gives me shit for it. So like,
that's great.
come on, clearly Nickelback has an audience, and
Oh yeah.
so whatever, who cares? I will put all those links in our show notes to all the things that are currently out. And I'm so happy to have you
buddy.
guys on the show. I'm so happy to finally talk about going
Man.
viral with both of you.
Man,
And
thanks
yeah,
so much, Zach. We
thank you.
appreciate you having us on.
And for everybody
Yeah,
who
thank
hasn't
you.
seen it yet, go watch Going Viral. If you've already seen it, go watch it again. This is what we did back in the 80s. We watched things over and over. We didn't just watch it once and let it go by the wayside. And I love, Vincent, I love to talk to you about clean living and health and stuff like that. My wife would probably really be down to check out those docs when you get them made. So anyways, go check everything out. Going Viral's on Tubi. And until next time, we'll see you back at the video store on Tales from the Video Store. Bye, everybody.
Thanks, man. See ya.
Thanks so much. Thanks for having us.
Rewind.